Assalamu alaikum and a very good morning to everybody who's tuned into PT World. You're watching Well this morning alongside Shazad and Maha, and today is a very important day as it is 10th of Muharram al-Haram.
Yeah.
This day has a high value in our history, in our religion, and has a high message. In fact, I think I'll put it this way that this day, not just this day, in fact, the entire month and the previous 10 days as well, or 9 days to be precise, has got a message for all of us, for the humanity out there, for all the sane people and for all the insane people too. These days within the society, we do figure it out ourselves that, there's too much violence. People do not love each other the way they used to. They're not composed anymore. They're not contented. And the society is actually a bit more flabbergasted than the way it was. But then, what message do we get out of 10th of Muharram? What message do we get out of Hussainiyat? What messages were there? Why were they? Why do you think that they were the ones who stood against all the oppressors? Why do you think that these examples were set for all of those people till the end of time? This is what we will be discussing today. That'll be a very different type of focus, best because of the fact that usually whenever you tune into a TV channel on this day, there'll be probably nohas and then they will talk about the actual event and what the incident was all about. But how we want to proceed with it is, what do we learn? How do we go forward? How do we become better human beings? And for that particular reason, we have been joined by some of our very amazing panelists over here who are scholars themselves. And then, we'll look from their perception, we'll look, through their dimensions, that how they see the situation.
Exactly, because like Shazad said, everyone knows what happened, during this month. Every year we've observed it. And like Shazad said, it's about going forward and seeing how can we make it better and how can we make that sacrifice worthwhile and make sure that it didn't go to waste. So for that, we have been joined by Dr. Mubashir. He is a psychiatrist and a Sufi mentor and so many other things that we get confused on how to introduce him. Assalamu alaikum. Thank you so much for joining us today. Besides Dr. Mubashir, we've been joined by Professor Shahir Elahi. He is the head of development studies at Bahria University. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Besides Shahir Elahi, we've been joined by Fahim Bangish, who is our colleague and news anchor.
And a very dear colleague.
Yes, and he has joined us today as well. Assalamu alaikum, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're going to start the conversation with you, Dr. Mubashir. Like Shazad said, we know what happened. But today, in 2016, with everything that's happening in the world, how should we observe today?
I think
Or this month?
it's a very important discussion today, and it's most relevant at this point in time. There is economical, political, and social terrorism going on. Actually, if you trace the history of it, I'll try to keep it succinct. It is a fight between two different sets of people, two tribes of Mecca, Banu Hashim and Banu Umayyah. It's that dynasties, these two dynasties were responsible. After Prophet's departure from this world, 50th Hijri, a strange thing started happening. There was intellectual, moral, and social deterioration in the society. And as Shahzad said, it was a story of there was greed to power, there was prejudice, there was jealousy, there was gossiposis. And in that context, two types of people evolved. I believe that there are two types of people in the world and two religions only. One is Sufism and the other is Kufism. In other words, what I mean is that Sufis are people who are honest, dedicated, focused towards the values of Islam. And Kufis are treacherous and deceptive people.
Right.
And you did use this term from Kufa as well?
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Because all this happened in Kufa.
Exactly.
So there is Hussainiyat versus Yazidiyat. It's a phenomena which is most relevant, particularly in our country, because Ashura Every place is Ashura these days.
Exactly.
Every day we have a Karbala. Army Public School incidents was also an Ashura day.
Exactly.
What happened in Quetta about a month ago is also an Ashura. And every place there is Karbalas these days. So it's a very important topic that we've come here
So
to
now to
discuss.
build up on this, I think these two types of people will obviously stay. They are here to stay as well. But as a matter of fact, Hussainiyat is a message. It's like a pillar of light. You look at it and then you deduce what you want to deduce and you absorb.
Yeah.
But if, Shahir Sahib, if you are to define Hussainiyat, how would you define it?
Yes, the word Hussain or the term Hussainiyat is such a loaded term that with the passage of time you find the meaning structure is getting wealthier every day. You find as many people, as many religion accumulating and also investing in this term which is Hussainiyat, which is Hussain. Hussain is like a pole of excellence. Itself is a culture. And if I want to inculture myself, I need to inculture myself in Hussain or Hussaini. That's what Gandhi said as well. You find a lot of Hindu Dats, Sikhs. You find a lot of Western and Eastern form of religiosity following Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam.
Exactly.
Why is that? Because his message is not just the message of intellect or knowledge. His message is experiential. The moment you listen or hear, the moment you find the audition of the word Hussain, it creates an impact on your chest. You start experiencing an experience instead of realizing, instead of understanding something out of it. So Hussain is such a word which is like an intuition, which is like an experience. Instead, that you find that what Imam Hussain creates an understanding, it creates an experience within you. And this is what the Imam Hussein's or Hussainiyat's revolution is. This word is not meant to be understood. This word is meant to be lived, meant to be
Right.
cultured, meant to be civilized, meant to be, invested in with all of our generations to come.
Exactly.
So I find Hussainiyat as one of the most highest pole of existence human beings can achieve.
Beacon of light.
It is indeed.
Amazing that is. But then at the same time, not just the Muslims, I think all those people who reside on this globe, I think they know about the term itself as well. But there are quite a lot of other people from other backgrounds. Like, for example, people from India who have written about Hazrat Imam Hussain as well. And then there are different poets who have their own explanation of the term Hussainiyat. So would you mind exhibiting a bit of light on that too?
Yeah, not just Hindus, Sikhs, you find the entire Muslim history, entire Muslim intellect is being influenced by the story of the Battle of Karbala. You find Mir Anis, you find Dabir, you find the culture of Lucknow, Hyderabad, Dakkan, Imroha, and then Lahore. The entire Punjabi Sufi culture is influenced. You find Bhagat Kabir, you find Bulleh Shah, Sultan Bahu, as many people as you can count. And they have used Imam Hussain in their poetry as the symbol of love, symbol of harmony, and symbol of the greatest of the powers humans can ever achieve. For example, Sultan Bahu said, ਜੇਕਰ ਦੀਨ ਇਲਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਸਰ ਨੇਜ਼ੇ ਕਿਉਂ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਹੋ 18,000 ਆਲਮ ਆਹਾ ਹੁਸੈਨ ਦੇ ਅੱਗੇ ਮਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਜੇਕਰ ਮੰਦੇ ਬਾਇਤ ਰਸੂਲੀ ਪਾਣੀ ਕਿਉਂ ਬੰਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ ਸਾਦਕ ਦੀਨ ਤਿਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਬਾਹੂ ਸਰ ਕੁਰਬਾਨ ਜੋ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ that it is not your intellect, it is not your understandability which may encompass Hussainiyat. You need to experience it, you need to feel it.
Sultan Bahu also said, very remarkable, ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਹੁਸੈਨ
ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਮਿਰਾਜ ਨਬੀ ਨੂੰ
ਹੋਇਆ ਹੁਸੈਨ ਨੂੰ
ਚਾਰ ਵਾਰੀ ਹੋ
ਪਹਿਲਾ ਮਿਰਾਜ
ਅੰਬੜੀ ਦੀ ਗੋਦੀ
ਅੰਦਰ ਦੂਸਰਾ ਨਾਨੇ ਦੀ ਸਵਾਰੀ ਹੋ ਤੀਸਰਾ ਖੰਜਰ ਦੀ ਧਾਰ ਉੱਤੇ ਜਿੱਥੇ
ਸ਼ਾਹ ਨਮਾਜ਼ ਗੁਜ਼ਾਰੀ ਹੋ ਚੌਥਾ ਮਿਰਾਜ ਨੇਜ਼ੇ ਦੀ ਨੋਕ ਉੱਤੇ
ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵੇਖਿਆ ਖਲਕਤ ਸਾਰੀ ਹੋ I think he said about Hindus and Sikhs, even people like Charles Dickens,
yes,
people like Baba Guru Nanak, it's a universal phenomena. And Morgan said very eloquently in his book that if George Bush or Donald Rumsfeld had heard the history of Karbala, they would have never invaded Iraq.
That's an
I mean,
interesting.
it's international. It's not a Muslim phenomena or a Shia phenomena.
Exactly. Even
It's
Gandhi
a-
was
Yes.
quite a keen follower.
It's a way of like you said, it's a way of life. It's a it's a lesson to be learned. But now we're talking about this. We're talking about all this greatness and the richness and how it's universal and the whole world realizes it. But as individuals, as practices, followers of the religion or this way of life, are we living up to that? Are we doing that? Because I mean, if we look at the state of affairs within the world, I don't think anyone is actually practicing.
And let's get started from Fahim on this
And then
one.
we'll come to Dr. Mubashir.
Yeah.
Were you listening to the question?
Of course I was.
Yeah.
Of course I was. Yes, you're very right, as a matter of fact, because these days you can count them in numbers, the people who are actually following that philosophy. And as a matter of fact, Professor Mubashir here is, I believe, one of the examples, because I see the way he lives and carries out his daily chores. And like he spoke about Sufism and Kufism, I really second that thought, because how many people can you find who are into truthfulness, who are not into deceit, who are straight in their affairs, who are not kinky in their affairs,
right
you
here.
know? Well,
But on a serious note,
yeah, on a serious note. So, and it's very difficult in today's era, in today's time, it's very difficult because people these days say that it's okay to lie. Okay, if it does you some good, if it does him some good, if it saves us from, a short-term loss, it's okay to lie, but it's not. That's the essence of Sufism, and then against that, why do they call it Kufism? There was deceit, there was lie,
Exactly. There was violence.
there was violence, and that's exactly what's going on in today's world.
so how? Okay, Dr. Mubashir.
I think that's why I said it's very relevant today, most relevant today in the whole world, and particularly in Pakistan.
So how do we start? Like, how do we get onto the right track?
I think we should understand the,
Sorry.
the whole incidents, the whole tragedy. It's a call for collective consciousness and collective unconsciousness. And we
I think the collective call for the unconsciousness is there.
Beautifully said by Dr. Saab. Husainiyat or Imam Hussein's message is not an explicit discourse. It has to be implicitly trained to each and every child of our generation. Imagine if we have 20 people in a hall and we have food for 19 people. Unless if every one of 20 people out of those 20 people are not going to say that I'm not hungry, someone can have my dinner or my food.
Exactly.
Trust me, we are not from the clan of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. The first step that we may teach in our society is to give away, forgive, sacrifice, altruism.
Sacrifice,
And what
yes.
Dr. Ali Shariati said once in one of his magnificent lectures, that there is only one word which is not available in any other literature in the form of sacrifice and altruism, and that is the word of Isar. Isar is the excellence that has been achieved by Imam Hussain, and this is the first training that we need to train our children with.
Very beautifully said, but I'll have to stop you over here because, ladies and gentlemen, we need to go for a short break. And when you come back, Fahim has got a beautiful narration in his hand and he's going to read it out as well. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere, we'll be right back.
Welcome back, everyone. And before the break, we were discussing the importance of Karbala and talking about the importance of today and what does it mean in the 21st century, 2016. How can we actually implement and actually live the life that we should be, as better human beings with more compassion, more love, and realizing what goes into life, which is sacrifice and consideration. So now, as Shahzad said before the break, Fahim is going to narrate something for us.
Mir and Isab's
Mir.
writing.
Yes.
I knew that.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Yeah. It's a mixture of different emotions here.
Okay.
Prepare the horses, light our righteous torch. May our hearts rejoice in paradise today. Make haste to force this issue in the fray. With these brave words, the king of land and sea went over to the women in the ranks. His men prepared, Abbas renowned and free. Paced to and fro a lion with armored flanks. The lightning of his face flashed on the sand. His shield aloft, his sword gripped in his hand. Solomon's crown was humbled by his helm. The wings of Homer were envious of its plumes. His gauntlets would fair victory overwhelm. God save us from his anger when it looms, when a brother wards off tyranny and wrong. Will not his brother's heart feel safe and strong? The king beheld the women's piteous state. Their hair hung loose, their faces pale and white. Zainab made a prayer, O God most great, save Fatima's darling in this awful sight.
Beautiful.
Very moving.
I've never experienced such a poetry in my entire life, though I read a lot of poetry from Charles Dickens, from Wordsworth, Keats, Shakespeare, Ezra Pound, and from all the Eastern poets. You find Mir Anis writing these great epics, large, long epics, and, depicting these different symbols, and then he makes all these characters timeless. There is no temporal or spatial boundary on these characters. For example, in this para, he's talking about the majestic power of Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam, the son of Hazrat Ali, and then in one para.
He was brother of Hazrat Ali.
No, Abbas was the son of Hazrat Ali. He was the brother of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, and one of the most bravest.
Chacha Abbas, they call him.
The Imam Hussein's daughter Sakina used to call Abbas Ammu Jan, Ammu Abbas. Why?
Abbas
Because
Chacha.
yes, and he was the one who actually protected, safeguarded Imam Hussain till his last breath. And in one of his lines in the same epic of Mir Anis, he wrote wonderfully about how can we experience Imam Hussain. He said, कपड़ों से आ रही थी रसूले ज़मन की बू, दुल्हा ने सूंघी होगी ना ऐसी दुल्हन की बू, हैदर की, फातिमा की, हुसैनो हसन की बू, फैली हुई थी चार तरफ पंचतन की बू. The beauty with the sense of smell is that you cannot calculate it, you experience it. My entire press in this show is that we need to experience Hussainiyat. Unless we are not going to implicitly train ourselves to experience Imam Hussain alayhi salam's message, we will not be able to practice
What do
it.
you actually mean by training your own self implicitly as well?
Because that's children, it's about
Because
being
this
raised
is
in that
something
way.
which is very difficult for people to understand as well. Now, if we want to experience that feeling, how do we train our souls?
We teach modernization, we teach a lot of professions in our university. Why cannot we teach our own symbol, our ideal, our moral ideal? And trust me, there are families in our society who teaches by becoming what Imam Hussain said. Look, I can teach my son to pray, but I cannot teach my son to speak truth, unless if I'm not speaking truth. This is the only way to implicitly train your children.
I think Quran Pak says very clearly, it describes three kinds of nafs.
Wow.
nafse amara, nafse lawama, and nafse mutmaina. So deen and faith is really for those people who have a conscience. And it is a struggle that we go through all our life to reach a state of nafse mutmaina. The story of in Islamic history, the whole history is a remarkable thing. When Abraham was ordered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to slaughter his son Ismail, so Ismail gave 4 conditions to his father: sharpen the knife, tell my mother why are you doing it, tie my hands so that I don't do any resistance.
I don't resist, yeah.
And fourthly, please put something on your
Blindfold.
eyes so that you don't shake. And he tried to slaughter his son, but he couldn't. And he was sweating, and he looked back, and Jibreel was standing there, and Abraham said, "Look, I'm following the order." He said, "No, you are following the order. It has been accepted, but because a prophet cannot see a false dream, this dream will come true." And he was shown Imam Hussain and Iqbal's verses, because Shahir is describing a lot of poetry. So I will also describe this in Urdu.
Sure.
कि गरीबो सादा और रंगीन है दास्तान हरम, निहायत इसकी हुसैन इब्तदा है इस्माइल.
Beautiful.
So I think we celebrate Eid al-Zuha, just everybody.
Yeah.
Why don't we feel the whole nation, the whole Muslim Ummah? It's not only restricted to Shias that they mourn. I think we all should mourn and celebrate it with the same religious fervor like we celebrate Eid al-Zuha.
Absolutely.
I think that's very truly said as well. But now where I'm going, or where I'm leading the conversation, is that with so many writers and poets writing about the incident itself, why do you think that there's lesser impact and more talking?
I mean, to be honest, I think all these, I mean, are we being taught, are the schools, are the kids being taught this? Because you said this needs to be an experience. It needs to be taught. So, because, you know,
It's a phenomena.
Yeah.
It's a phenomena.
So how do we teach it to our children?
I
How do we
think-
get them to realize? Because I think with our generation, you kind of have a realization, but you don't at the same time. There's a connect, there's a disconnect, you know, and everyone's trying to find their way. So how do we now help the next generation to not have this
I
confusion?
think because we wrongly interpret the concept of deen. Deen is actually meant for character building. It's not only a story of a slaughter of so many people. It's a call to a collective, as I said, conscious and unconscious.
That it is, but then, you know, for example, if you switch on television every other day, what are they doing? They're character assassinating people as well. Now we need to change these trends. We need to come up with better actions, not words.
Shehzad, we have set wrong models, wrong media projection as well. In our days, when I was very young, we used to have dramas.
still young.
I am, but still.
2 days ago, right?
But our mind is very ancient, by the way. So my ancient mind still reflects all those memories where PTV and all the other channels used to show different dramas and shows and live talks on these kind of issues and topics. The issues and topics were mostly very, you know, there were sentences, dramas that may be experienced. You know, they were
Exactly.
abstract. In 20th century, Samuel Beckett made the theatre of the absurd. The theatre of the absurd was not meant to be understood, was meant to be experienced. And the entire media used to make Imam Hussein's story in the same fashion. And that is exactly why my generation still holds this very firm faith in the message of Imam Hussain and Islam, as compared to the people who are being groomed with wrong set of models. And I'm really very sorry to say it somehow. We need to set these models as our high moral models so our children can follow it as well.
We have
And
gone back. I think the sanctity of humanism is finished.
But we have to revive it now. No? This is what our job
Absolutely,
is. Now,
absolutely.
because you very rightly said that everybody needs to mourn, everybody needs to observe the day as well, everybody needs to be a part of the celebration. But we do not need to sensitize it, sensationalize it. I think these are the things where we need to stop as well, because we go a mile further. For example, if we were told to go till here, we'll probably walk a mile over there as well. Just
Look,
because of
Shahzad,
the fact that we want to experience things by our own selves, we don't
Yeah.
want to learn from others.
yeah, the byproduct of our modern education is a job. The end result of our education is a job, is an occupation, is a profession, is to work 9 to 5. What I feel like saying is we had an alternate source of inspiration, education in our homes, in our communities, in the form of shrines, in the form of arais of Awliya Allah, in the form of festivals, in the form of other sources of channels, in the forms of extended family system.
Exactly.
That was very different. The end product, the byproduct of that education, of that experience was moral, not occupational.
Yeah.
Now, what we are doing is we have commodified the entire education system.
And
It is based on this market competition. Market has mannerism too, but Imam Hussein's mannerism can only be experienced, and we have other channels to promote it. As
I think we have forgotten the real essence of Deen, and Hazrat Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti Ajmeri Rahmatullah alayh put it very succinctly. Shah Ast Hussain, Padishah Ast Hussain, Deen Ast Hussain, Deen Pana Hast Hussain, Sardad Nadad, Dast Dar Daste Yazid, Hakka ke binaye la ilah Hast Hussain. Matlab, the whole essence of Islam, of codes of living, of our characters is a lesson that we have learned from Hussainiyat and this whole incident.
And we need to practice it
And
quite
we need
often as well. But before we wrap up the show, there's another narration, obviously, but we want your take on the entire discussion as well. How do you
Yes,
think?
of
How
course.
do you
Like
feel?
Because we can
there
always
were.
say, sorry, I just want to add something, is that, we can always say where we're going wrong and how we don't have the right
we just say it.
mentors and idols, which is what we're saying. But then the whole point is not to say what we already know. We already know this. It's about how do we now move forward and teach ourselves, the next generation, the moral aspect, the ethical aspect.
And be more sane.
Before the next generation, I believe this generation has to be taught. Because, you see, when a child wants to do something good, it's the parents who tell them, no, you can do it, it's okay. Or even if the child is an adolescent and he wants to do something good, you're not a prophet that you're doing this, you're not a saint that you're doing this. So that has to be finished. That has to be, parents have to be taught first. And besides, considering the fact that the first 1,000 days of a child are so important, you keep on lying, you keep on swearing in front of children. What are you teaching them in their babyhood?
Okay, that's true. So it's about the environment that they're around. And I just,
adding on to, I'm sorry to
No,
cut
that's
you.
fine, I'll ask
Adding
after.
to what Fahim said, it's very, very important. And we also need to revive our indigenous culture. Unless we are not going to revive our own culture from where we seek our own identity,
we have to
we
get
will
back to
remain
roots.
identityless. My identity is
Yes.
Prophet Muhammad. My identity is Imam Hussain and Maula Aliul Murtaza, maybe. But the point is that I do not seek identity in Ali because I feel myself way more comfortable calling myself an anthropologist, not a Hussaini,
Exactly.
not a Sufi. You find it derogatory to call yourself a Sufi nowadays, and you will very proudly say yourself as an anthropologist. This is what the problem is.
this is exactly what my next point
Exactly.
was, is that you said that everything's become an occupation. We learn to get a job, we do this for this.
And you miss out
we
on
do
morals.
this to get married, all these things, everything, there's an ulterior motive.
Yes.
Now, that's so deeply ingrained within the generations, within our genetics. How do we now come out of it? Like, this is the thing, we talk about culture and all these things. How do we get back?
We really understand Deen because, as I said, and we should forget about what we are involved in, and we should have that our roots have to be very, very strongly. We have gone beyond, our value systems have changed completely. And these stories of Hazrat Imam Hussain, the lessons used to be taught by grandmothers. And I think the joint family system is destruction.
Exactly.
Nobody pays attention. In school, they may teach you, but they don't tell you the philosophy of Hussainiyat. And I think, as Fahim said, that if you don't learn anything within the first 5-6 years of your life about Deen, you are daughter of a psychiatrist and a daughter of a great granddaughter of a great clinical psychologist. I think the hard disk of a child completes by the age of 6 years. And what is written on the hard disk cannot be deleted. After that, whatever you tell them, it's a soft disk, it deletes.
So everybody needs to work
Yeah.
hard.
Our neighboring countries are creating a milestone in reviving their indigenous culture. They're documenting it. Why can't we do it? Number two, before partition and even after partition, there were dedicated theaters, street-based theaters that only used to depict the story of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. If you read the writings of John Elia, because a lot of people are known to John Elia, we do not know previous poets. You find it evident in our history that we used to play these characters. We used to teach our offsprings, our people who used to play these characters. When
And
you
I think
play
we
a
need to do
character,
that too. That's
create
very
literature, yes.
The
brilliantly
whole
said as well.
philosophy, I think the most important thing is that we have divided the society into sectors, Shia and Sunni.
Yeah.
And there's inherent prejudice against each other.
Yeah.
I think we must forget about it. And we have this.
And live in peace and harmony, I think.
That's
this
right.
is what is required.
If Sultan Bahu said, I just read one misra, na main Shia, na main Sunni, mera doha to ji sarda.
Sarda.
So we are either Shia or
Translation?
Sunni.
Yeah, okay.
Sarda means that I'm very anti.
So we have
both
to
of
come
them.
out of this
Okay.
divide as well, live
And
peacefully.
we have to
and
teach them the lesson of Hussainiyat.
amazing, beautiful that is. And ladies and gentlemen, with that, we do have to, wrap up the show. But, we'll say our goodbyes and then we'll move on to Fahim because Fahim has got another reading as well. So look after yourself and please, all of these messages which came out of our amazing panelists and guests over here and scholars and philosophers, please make sure that, you try to probably work on them. I mean, just keep them in your head. Just keep on telling your own self and you'll be a better human being.
Exactly. And I think that's everything. So
Exactly.
we're going to listen to Fahim now.
Yeah. Now, this is a continuation to that. It's about Abbas. For thou art leader of the strong and weak, and after the Quran, thy word is law. But if it's thy will that I should speak, then I would choose the brave Abbas. For me, in valor, no one stands as high as he. He loves thee. He's thine obedient slave. A younger brother who will give his life for thee and fight with strength among the brave. A worthy son in time of war and strife. A lion-hearted general, good and fair. With his great courage, no one can compare. The king who has no equal found his voice as tears came to his eyes. To thee my thanks, my sister, thou hast uttered Ali's choice. Go call Abbas, the terror of the ranks. Akbar called his uncle reverently. The king awaits. My aunt has chosen thee. Abbas came in the presence of the king. Go to thy sister, said Hussein. She chose. Zainab placed the standard in the ring. Taking the flag, the Lord of heaven arose. Here is the standard thou alone mayst lift. For thee, the holy ones reserved this gift. He clasped the pole and to his master bowed, then filled with glory, touched his sister's feet. She blessed him, saying, Brother, I have vowed my life to thee. Protect me from the heat of battle. Go and bring us peace today, and guard thy brother in this awesome fray. Abbas addressed his sister, While my hand remains upon my neck, be not distressed. Though 100,000 swords on us be sped, they will not pierce this shield, my stalwart breast. The sons of the Lion of God to action rise. They fight with lions and tear out their eyes. To Ali's tomb he turned his noble face. Behold, each atom has become a son. Ah, Lord of dust, have mercy on thy race. Before Hussein to martyrdom I run. My head will fall to save thine only peer. My blood and sweat are shed upon Shabir. The Syrian army masses with its pride, and fast approaches, bent on doing harm. Hussein replied, No cause for fear this day. Abbas will bear our standard to the fray.
Very nice. Thank
Thank
so
you very
for
much,
that.
gentlemen. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
joining us. Look after yourself.
And,
thank
so-
you very much.
And beautifully narrated.
Yes,
Beautiful.
and thank you so much for the show. And so with that, that is all we've got time for today. Do log on to our Facebook fan page,
Which is with the name of World This Morning.
our Twitter page,
World This Morning without a G.
our Daily Mission YouTube page,
World This Morning once again.
and the repeat is at.
11 p.m.
We will see you bright and early tomorrow.
Look after yourselves. Thank you, sir.